Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, July 5th, 2024. And this is episode number, I don't remember what it is, 925 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Friday show. So we've got the Homestead Happening show. And I don't believe it's actually possible for a redneck to be on time to the show if I am not in town. So obviously, we're coming to you from two locations today. I am coming from California, and you're going to hear him open the door here soon. I see him moving around in the background right now. So we're trying to
Hey,
make it so you can see him.
there was a conspiracy today to make sure that I was late.
Yep.
There
As I
was
said, not possible.
there was a dump truck involved or a garbage truck involved, people not showing up on time. Like my hour trip to go drop somebody off was well over 2 hours.
Yeah. I'm wondering why you didn't just leave him there and tell him have a nice life.
Well, that was the other side of it was I started driving back and got the phone call that like, hey, don't go too far. You might be coming back to get me.
I gotcha. But in the end, it all worked out, and he's only a couple minutes late. Guys, today, if you have a question, please be sure to put the word question in all caps so that I can see it because I'm on a tiny little screen. I don't have my second monitor today because I'm coming to you from California. So today we're going to talk about weaning the little sheep. So little sheep has gone off milk now, the bottle baby. What's growing in the garden? The garlic harvest that hasn't happened yet, I'm pretty sure. I don't know for sure because I wasn't there yesterday, but I'm pretty sure and canning season kickoff, all of those things. Before we jump into that, also, I don't know what Tactical wants to say today, so that's going to just be a super big surprise for me, too. I want to talk about our featured event of today's show. It's the East Tennessee Homesteaders Alliance Festival. And here's the thing. If you want to check out more about this and get tickets, wildbodyschool.com is where they're selling it. And that's because the organizer already had that website and she went the path of least resistance and put the tickets there. I did that too with Self Reliance Festival. They were for sale at Living Free in Tennessee for a couple of festivals before I was like, maybe we should have our own website. So that's next weekend. And if you're not going to Alum Weekend, you should totally go to that. It's July 12th and 13th. Lots of great speakers, lots of people from our network. Check it out, wildbodyschool.com next weekend. I also want to thank our two sponsors of today's show. The first one is the agristaxadvice.com, folks. That's Matthew Sursley. Matthew Sursley loves to work with people to figure out how they can best structure their businesses to take advantage of the tax code. So he looks at all the things that you do, which sounds like an audit and uncomfortable, but it's actually great. I've been going through this process with him this year. I've been the slow person, by the way. He's been fast with me, but I don't always get him answers to his questions. And then he suggests ways to restructure or approves of your structure. It tells you what tax write-offs you can track, how to track them, any risks associated with those, so you keep more of your money in your pocket. Find out more at agristaxadvice.com. He also does a free webinar every month. That's agristaxadvice.com/webinar to just learn whatever it is he's teaching this month. Our other sponsor is Holler Roast. Holler Roast Coffee roasts everything to order and ships it to your door anywhere in the US or AFP or FPO mailboxes, except for Germany, apparently, because Germany will send it back to you if you're in the military in Germany, because we're not allowed to ship coffee from America to Germany. It's a weird post-World War II law that they put into place to keep competition out of the market as Germany was rebuilding its economy. Ask me how I know. This is how we learn those lessons, right? Anyway, it's great coffee. You can grab your orders over at hollerroast.com. And if you need to stock up on those horrible K-Cup things that are awful for the environment, you know who you are. You know you're using them anyway because they're convenient. We have launched what we call Freedom Pods. That's K-Cups that you can order at hollerroast.com. Check it out there. With that, it's time for my first question of today's show, which is not the first segment, and it's for Tactical. Tactical, how's the new schedule going for you now that we've done it for just a little over a week? It's almost 2 weeks in.
Better when you're here.
It's better when I'm there. Why?
No, I mean, yesterday was just kind of busy and exhausting, and then today was there is no schedule. The schedule is bounce from one thing to the next, and like, 2 weeks ago, I was like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let's go to the grocery store. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, let make a cup of coffee and shove some food in your mouth in between.
Yeah, so while I was in town, I was kind of cooking big meals and then freezing some so that while I was gone I'm gone for 5 days right now, I think. The trouble with me being gone right now is we don't always know if it's 5 days or 10 days. Um, so I think it's 5 days this time. And I was cooking double and then freezing stuff so that he could just have easily reheatable meals. He does need to cook that steak today so it does not go bad that's in the fridge and in the sous vide at 132. And it's one steak. So if you're sharing food with Nighthawk, you're going to have a second thing. But that's gone pretty well. We rejigged as everybody knows, we rejiggered our schedule. We were only like a day or two in last time we reported. I think it's going well. We don't always stick to it. But what it does is it's established some benchmarks throughout the day that we hit. And when we hit those, the whole day goes better. So what I've heard is his morning went off the skids today, and that would it help you to have a conversation about the rest of the day, like what your priority is going to be right now, or are you just going to figure that out on your own?
It's gonna be a play it by ear. If anybody's looking for to make some quick money, placing bets on if it's going to rain or not against the weatherman, pretty safe bet right now. Cause yeah. Um, so I mean,
What's a safe bet? That it's not going to rain or that it is going to rain?
just whatever when the weatherman says it's gonna rain, bet that it's not gonna rain. Cause like so far they've changed their mind 15 times and it's like, yeah, you haven't hit a benchmark yet. Like
Okay,
it was
so let me ask you this. What have you done so far today on the homestead? You've delivered Nighthawk to his car, gotten stuck in traffic, let the dogs pee. Anything else?
yeah, everybody's eaten. Basically all the morning animal stuff is done. So like once this live stream is over, it's gonna be kind of an assess what the weather is looking like, and there's certain things that need to get done. And so it's like, which one of those am I going to try to hammer first? And that's partially going to depend on
What
the
do you think
weather.
absolutely has to be done today? Besides water the garden, refill the tomato wall.
Well, I mean, I'll probably start with the tomatoes and the aquaponic system, making sure those are topped up because that can actually burn a pump out. And then I've got the sheep need to get set up to move.
Are they moving today or tomorrow?
It depends on if I can move them today. If I can
Do they
move them
need
today,
to
I
move
will.
today, or is it like they could move today or tomorrow?
They probably should move today just based on food, but they still have enough there to eat. So it's kind of, I think they would prefer to move today,
But you
but
could bring
they
them some
can,
comfrey and they might be kind of happy with that too.
yeah, that can get stalled off till tomorrow, but I do need to finish getting set up for that, which requires going up one of the steepest parts of the hill to get stuff.
Okay, and what else has to be done today?
Um, there's a lot of little stuff, trash needs to get something done with it so that it's not sitting on this chair. There's food scraps that still need to go to the chicken, stuff like that. A
So
lot of
nothing
little
urgent.
stuff.
Like
Well,
obviously I don't want the food scraps sitting in my house making flies, but nothing
yeah,
that's nobody's going to die. Like you need to water the rabbits.
yeah, which the rabbits do have water. The ones in the tractor need food. I
Yeah.
mean, when I say need food, their food needs to be topped off.
Yeah.
But I
And
mean,
the goats have water and the everybody has water. Or did you let the
yeah.
ducks out or are they in jail?
No, I let the ducks back out because I don't think that it's a being all over the yard problem. I think that we might have another rat problem.
So what I'm hearing you say, besides we need to get some rat bait out, um, Tigger has given up hunting rats again, by the way.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is there is absolutely nothing that absolutely has to happen today except for food and water of animals. And the rest of it, depending on if it rains or not, will either happen or won't happen. You know what that tells me?
Work faster.
No? After this live stream, you should cook yourself breakfast, sit down and eat an actual breakfast, and then do the rest of the day. Because if you do that, your brain will stop spinning and then you can be like, okay, I'll go work on the pasture, or it's raining. I know you need to water the garden tonight if it doesn't rain, but that's just turning a dial to a 45-minute water.
Yeah, and I have actually already gotten enough food in me already this morning.
What'd you eat?
Um, some cured meats and the rest of the deviled eggs.
I'm shocked to hear that the deviled eggs lasted more than one day.
Well, I specifically reserved some of them for today because I knew it was going to be a train wreck.
Okay, so then if that's the case, because I'm not there, you should pre-cut your vegetables for a saute tonight and be mentally prepared to start that steak at 4 o'clock in the sous vide.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll take you half an hour to cut up the vegetables, and then you'll have a decent meal tonight, which will set you up for success tomorrow. I'm calling farmers at the farmers market to see about having you pick up a few fresh vegetables that we're not growing.
Yeah.
So I will let you know about that. So guys, that's like, I just thought I'd just have that conversation because we would have had that conversation after the show anyway. And that's how, when I'm there, what happens is I do some of those things that we talked about him doing, and B, um, what happens with Tactical when things go off schedule is he just tries to work harder through it, but he doesn't always step back and reprioritize, because now he's like, I got to catch up on these things I told myself I was going to do today. But then if we ask, like, why does it have to happen today? The answer is sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Would that be about right?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I've already conceded the fact that there was some stuff that I wanted to do today that's probably not going to happen because I don't have time.
Yeah. So was traffic crazy today on the interstate, or was it just that they were late getting to the auto shop today?
Oh
Or
no.
people had too much fun yesterday?
It was getting into Cookville was not bad. It was when I got on the road, had to stop, get back on the interstate, and as soon as I got back on the interstate, it started raining, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, it's raining! There's no storm shelter here. What do I do?" It's like, you
Okay, so
got to
traffic was bad.
be kidding me! And like, I was gonna go to the further exit because I can go faster down the interstate. And then it was like, there's no point. We're doing like 50. There's no point in doing that. I'll get off on the first exit and do 50 and get home in the same amount of time or faster. And then as soon as I turned off, I got behind a garbage truck who did 25 to 30 miles an hour the entire way.
Yes, so guys, my perception of this was me checking in. Hey, do you want to do show notes? And I accessed a grumpy redneck at that time, but he was trying not to let me know he was grumpy, but I could tell he was grumpy. By the way, I'm on a yoga ball, so you know.
There was also the fact that I couldn't hear and I had to like hit the replay button and hold my phone up to my ear.
Imagine a world where you could just run that through your speakers in your car.
Not worth it.
Not hard to do.
Still not worth it.
I think it's worth it.
No. The
Really
amount of
not hard
times
to
that I
do.
need it.
Huh?
The amount of times that I need it.
I don't know. I think it's
And
worth
if
it.
I'm working on that truck, there's more important things to do. That was the other thing that I discovered today was apparently the emergency flashers don't work.
Okay. Well, you should probably get on that.
You know,
Is it still making that horrible noise when you turn it on?
yeah, I need to check the tension on the belt for that, but
Yeah, I've had that particular problem really break some things. That's why I keep bugging you about it. So on the topic of trucks and the hauler, how many trucks are in the hauler right now, Tactical?
I don't know.
I'll give you a visual hint.
Oh, we are down one.
So 5 trucks are in the hauler. Of those 5 trucks, how many work? Are you gonna
Okay.
answer?
You keep making the same point.
I'm making it for a reason, but we did manage to unload one not working truck, so now the statistics a little bit better, and either side of this equation can be improved. There's actually a real easy win to move that number to 2.
You say that.
Yep. Anyway, okay, let's go to our first segment of today's show, forage. This is what we're finding out and about. I will talk about what I've noticed because I'm pretty sure that he hasn't thought about forage this morning yet, and I'll give him a chance to think. So daylilies are blooming. They're great on salads. I haven't picked any for salads, but they are there. The jewel weed yesterday morning. So I'm not allergic to poison ivy, but for some reason this last 2 weeks I exposed myself to it and I had an outbreak that I think is poison ivy, but who knows? It could be something else. So yesterday morning I was walking the dogs before I flew to California, and I saw the jewel weed blooming on the side of the road, and I like picked all the flowers, and the dogs were like, "Why aren't we stopping here?" And then I walked home, took a shower, and rubbed it all over my poison ivy on my leg. Now I'm gonna go. I'm like pulling my jeans up, and it's still there, but it is a little better right now. And I don't know if that's thyme or jewel weed. I've had mixed results with jewel weed, but then I think my like the dermatitis or whatever that I get from plants is not necessarily poison ivy, but in this particular case, the timing is right there with I was exposed to poison ivy because it's growing around that garden hose timer. I took a shower right afterwards, and then I broke out on my legs, which would have been where because I was in shorts, which would have been about the level where the poison ivy was. So I think it's highly likely this time it's poison ivy. But that being said, jewelweed is blooming, and it is the thing you're supposed to use to counteract exposure to poison ivy. So if I'd been smart, I would have gone down and gotten jewelweed leaves and in my shower washed with it that day. But since I don't usually break out from poison ivy, I wasn't worried about it. I just used soap, and then once you get it, it can help with the rash. So that's going on. The Jerusalem artichokes are of a size now that I can scope out where they are in the holler beyond the obvious places where I've planted them. And when I know I'm going to want to harvest a bunch of Jerusalem artichokes in the fall and winter, I mark them with a string so that when the leaves are dead, I still know it's a Jerusalem artichoke, and it's like a sign to dig there for them. Because what'll happen is they'll bloom, and then in the fall they'll put the energy into the roots and build the tubers. The tubers are what you eat, but they are a beautiful flower that kind of looks like sunflower esque, daisy esque, yellow colored daisy esque. And then Tactical wouldn't have paid attention this one because he does not care. But the thornless blackberries look like they'll be ripe about the time I get back from California. And I have one plant that has fruit on it that he does not know exists. But this brings up a very important topic, which is, where I was going to put that little pond thing in on the hillside garden where we
Yep.
still don't have a pond in?
Yep.
Don't trim back right there. Trim back around there. But there's one vine with blackberries on it that I prefer you did not weed whack right now.
I'm
You
not
totally
getting
weed
to that.
whack it after I harvest.
I'm not getting to that anytime soon.
I mean, you're going to have to get to making it so people can get into that shower really soon.
Am I gonna hit it if I go do around the shower?
You'll see the thing with berries, just don't whack that. And then there's the one that grows up in the shower that I would like to continue to grow up in the shower because I want to train it up on trellis in there.
That one's
It,
still there.
yeah, mom even cut it back in April and now it's back. Like
Okay.
literally, it's been begging me to do a thornless blackberry wall there for 3 years. And I think I'm just going to admit that's what we're doing now.
Okay.
Okay. He's like, that wood's still there. Have you seen any forage out and about?
No, but I've been hyper focused on other stuff, so like I have not been paying attention to
Okay, let's do the livestock
anything.
update. What do you got? What's first and foremost on your mind about livestock?
Um Still panning out the issue with sheep and dog food
So tell
and
them what we tried last week.
what I wound up doing, and I can't remember if I've talked about any of this or not, but
You
what I
haven't.
wound up doing was putting two insulators in going across the entrance to the dog shed. And moved the dogs down the hill to the next paddock. I can't remember. I think it was in the afternoon or evening or something. And then basically ran a hot wire across to that. And then there's like their food container is one of the ones that, it has the sloped metal plate. So all the food goes down. And so I would take a scoop of dog food and pour it straight on that metal plate so it makes the clickety clank sound so that the sheep are well aware of the fact that I am topping off dog food. And several of them went over, stuck their nose up in there, and got nailed. One of them, one of the males, he got nailed right in the nose really good. And he jumped and ran, which spooked everybody else, and everybody else ran. And this went on for, I don't know, 24 hours before I finally moved them down into the next paddock. And then normally with the paddock that they're in, it's mostly wooded. So what I would have to do normally is drop the fence, pull the dog's shed out of the paddocks completely, go all the way around and pull it into the bottom of the paddock. What I decided to do this time was I put the dog's shed in the top corner of the paddock where there's like 10 feet of grass before it turns into woods. And then there's a big plateau at the bottom area. And that's where I put all the water bowls and all the sheep's food and everything, and trying to get them to basically bed down for the week at the bottom so that they're not in the vicinity of the dog's food. So that has, as far as I can tell, mostly worked. So I need to go up there today to see if I can tell, like, look to see how much food is in there and try to assess whether or not the dogs are actually going in there, that kind of thing. So that's another thing that's on my to-do list the next day or two.
Do you still have that camera from Steve? Like, could you put a camera on it?
I do still have it. I need to rip the pictures off of it and take it back up there. So I will probably just wait until I actually get the sheep moved.
Yeah, because it might actually be worth moving just the dogs today and moving the sheep tomorrow and letting it plug back in for another day just in case somebody's been bad.
Yeah.
Just so they
Um,
know it could be electric at any time.
yeah, it's I will have to see if with easier said than done.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so we made an electric situation out of that just to discourage the Rams because the primary issue is that they the size that they're at right now, they can get in there. When they get bigger, it will be harder for them. Really, we just need to move the Rams out of there completely, but I think that has to happen when I'm home more. So that's been a bit of a challenge for sure. How did Weaning Stormy go?
It was a little concerning at first, um, just because the first couple of days, like, there was still the expectation of a bottle. I think she's kind of gotten over that, but I'm trying to remember if it was yesterday morning or, yeah, I think it was yesterday morning. She had not been eating the sweet feed. Like, she'd take a bite of it and then that was it. And so I mixed a little bit of the Timothy pellets in with the sweet feed. And when I took that up to her, she started chowing down, and I was like, cool, maybe she got hungry enough to, you know, commit to it. And then I realized I think what she was doing was she was picking through it like a little kid and just eating the Timothy pellets.
Which is fine. So the
Yeah.
reason we're feeding her creep is that because she doesn't have a mom, she has slowed down in growth since we've reduced her milk and weaned her. And so everybody's bigger than she is at this point. And what we don't want is for her immune system not to keep her up and vibrancy to go away. It is normal for a bottle baby to be behind everybody else at this phase, but I want to keep a close eye on it. And most sheep farmers are feeding their sheep a pound of creep if it's a bottle baby at the transition time. And we are feeding Stormy 2 bites of creep a day. So I'm not that concerned, but I know that we weighed her at 35 pounds 3 days ago. Have you weighed her since then?
No, if I can this afternoon, I'll try to bring her back over here.
Yeah, and the deal is weighing her in the pasture isn't really possible because of the shape of the pasture, and you need the
Yeah.
scale to be flat. So we may need to have a different way to weigh little sheep in the future. But right now we have what we have.
Yeah.
So if I notice that she's losing weight, then we may end up moving her back over to my place and having to manage her over at my place while she gains weight again. Because this is sort of like the next 6 weeks are another sort of pay attention very carefully every day sort of time for Stormy. But so far, so good. We've been doing fodder trees. Well, I've been doing fodder trees behind Tactical's back for the rabbits and the goats. What I was doing when I was home was just trimming off stuff from the trees in the morning and throwing it to them, and then like the rabbits in particular weren't too into the mulberry leaves, but now they're starting to be into the mulberry leaves. So I just harvest some mulberry and some plantain for them, and they like a fresh treat every day. So that augments their food, so we don't have to feed them as much. And then the sheep, Tactical has been bringing them comfrey, like an armful of comfrey, because our comfrey is huge right now. And so just trimming it back, throwing it to the sheep. If I had an easier way to get fodder tree cuttings to the sheep, I would bring it over to that pasture. But since they're all at my place, I'm using them locally with the goats, which is working fine. And part of that is also to maintain the fodder tree system in a pollarding way, which means we're cutting high up on the tree. Since we're not grazing between the trees and just cutting them where the sheep go at this time, bringing them up to the goats works well, and it keeps the branches from getting too big to where I can't harvest them next year. So it's just the perfect time for that right now, and it's working really well. Tell us about duck jail.
Um, I mean, it was duck jail. I mean, I rigged up. I've got a cattle panel that I cut in half that I'm using the two halves kind of as a mobile gate. I've got several places on the property that will eventually get a gate, but that's not anytime in the near future. So I've got the two cattle panels that I can just move from one place to another if I need to.
Ducks are in jail because they're not laying eggs where they need to be.
Yeah, and so I wound up taking one of those gates and zip tying some of that green fence, plastic fence stuff to it. And that seems to work a lot better for a gate than the little freezer grates that we were using. And so I was putting or leaving them in the coop or in the yard until 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then letting them out and then putting them to bed. And I think within all of that, I managed to find like 2 yard eggs the whole time and still only getting 1 or 2 eggs in the coop. So I'm really thinking that either there is another snake or there's something going on with rats. And I've started trying to,
This is
uh,
another good time to use a camera.
the reason I am not even gonna bother putting a camera on the duck coop is I have tried that before and never gotten any pictures of anything.
Okay. Do you want me to use the wise ones when I get back?
If you want to try it, knock yourself out.
Okay. I'll need your
But
help with that with the internet.
I've put game cameras on that coop before, both for rat and snake, and never gotten any pictures of anything aside from a cat.
Yeah, my theory, because you want it inside the coop, my theory is that they are molting or they're starting to molt, which is about the right time for them to do that. And so that's one thing, and that there may be a snake. I'm guessing it's more snake than rat. But hopefully the rats are not back.
I know that there has been some activity. I need to put some bait in my attic and find another place because there is a channel in between two sections of roof in the cabin that is like a rodent superhighway.
Okay, well, let's definitely deal with that because we don't want that in the cabin either. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna suspect snakes because rats would leave shells.
Well, that was the other interesting part is I did find a shell on one 2x4 that's about 4 foot off the ground, which
Okay.
is what really led me to start thinking rats.
Well, we'll look at that for sure. Other than that, guys, we're dealing with all the sick pets. So Tactical's going to the vet with one of them on Monday. And the other one, I'm just putting a call out in Middle Tennessee. Anybody who knows a veterinarian who's actually a good veterinarian who can assess a more complex situation in an elderly cat, I am looking for that right now. I don't really have a good resource for that at the moment. Like I have livestock, and I think this is not a situation where somebody who's on the newer side of the practice is the best choice. So just throwing that out. Let me know, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. How are all the rabbits still alive?
Yes.
Okay. I put a fan on the rabbits before I left, and then I heard the heat index was like 118 degrees yesterday.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay. Yeah. There was lots of griping about it, but you know what? Who the people who were griping were outside at the Fiddler's Jamboree.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's a very conducive place to be where there's probably lots of concrete acting as a heat sink.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Okay, next segment we have is grow. This is where we talk about what we're growing on the homestead. The squash is actually looking really good in the garden this year. Did you notice that?
I haven't looked at the garden.
Okay. Well, I looked at it before I left. Some weeding needs to be done that I didn't get done last week, but not bad. And the squash is looking great. I wish I had more feed bags to put down between the rows up there right now,
We
especially
need
right now.
we need a lot more cardboard and a lot more paper.
Okay. Tell the Eversoles if they are not using their feed bags that we want their feed bags.
Oh, that's a good point. I haven't
Because
even
I
thought
don't
about
know
that.
that they use them the way we do, and they might be tossing them or burning them.
Probably.
And then talk to Nighthawk about cardboard because he probably could help you out.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, so the cucumbers are coming on, like they're actually coming into their own. The squash is doing well. Tomatoes are doing better this year than usual, which is a surprise. And then the green beans are not having a great year. So that is what it is. It's time to harvest the garlic. I am sure that Tactical did not harvest it yesterday, but it needs to be
No.
harvested soon. If it's not harvested when I get back, then we're harvesting it when I get back. But the thing in the garden that's really helped this year is I put 50% shade cloth up, and it's noticeable. Like if you go up there right now and look at my squash plants, you'll see ones under shade cloth or the one in the bottom corner in the that gets shade. They're looking great, and the ones that are on the other side of where the shade cloth ends look like crap. So, if you're growing vegetables in Middle Tennessee, you might want to put shade cloth up if you're having like the dog days of summer early in July, which is a little early for this to happen, but it happened this year. I expect to see my first ripe tomato when I get back. One was thinking about maybe turning when I left. We also had our first tomato worm, but Ken Esch was over and we fed it to the fishies, and I haven't seen anything since. Have you seen any damage on that?
No, I should probably go actually specifically look though.
Yeah, because that wall of tomatoes is one of the best walls I've ever done right now.
Yeah.
It's looking really good. Have you put nutrient in since I left?
Yeah, I need to actually check the balance because I just
Dumped it.
guesstimated when I was topping it.
I mean, like, literally, that's all I've done this year, and every so often I check the balance, and it's stayed in balance pretty well. Um, we have there some vines that have gotten so long that they're as tall as my house, and we're starting to train them up Taj Mahal's roof, which I always dreamed of doing but never got to do. And you know what's interesting this year is I have 50% shade cloth there too. So I'm wondering how much the shade cloth has impacted the tomato wall doing so well this year.
We can pull the shade cloth back and find out.
No, sir. No, sir. Not after you cut my tree down.
Hey, you wanted it trimmed. It's
I
trimmed.
didn't I didn't mean like down to a stick. What else
You
you got
also
growing?
you also didn't want it landing on the roasting shack either.
This is true. What else do you have growing?
The rock garden was doing really well until a
Until you
chestnut
took the
tree.
shade away?
Then yeah, until the chestnut tree came down and landed on top of it. The
It was the
erect
shade, not the landing.
well, it was also the I couldn't access it for a while because there was tree branches on top of it.
Like 3 days.
It was longer than that because it took me a while to get to that area. But it's interesting that there's two different oregano plants in there. I can't remember which one's which. Just like two different varieties. One of them looks like death. The other is like, this is awesome.
Propagate the other one. We'll plant it
I'm
all over the yard.
I'm about to. I'm about to go take as soon as I have time. I'm gonna go take a bunch of cuttings off and stick it in places.
Okay, so today after this, make sure that you're ready for dinner. Go do all your propagation. Go up to the sheep pasture if you can. Sounds like a pretty good day. Water the things.
Yeah. And then aside from that though, like the
Do
stuff
you
that's
have sweet potato starts?
no, I had one and then that wound up getting taken out because I pulled that raised bed.
Oh, okay. So you just tossed it?
Yeah, it had not really started doing anything and I didn't have a place to put it. It might still be viable.
Yeah, go see if you can rescue it and put it in a pot and water it because I've got place. If we can get one going, I'm gonna put that all over the swales
Okay.
because it grows so fast and it's a really good like fast ground cover. I don't actually need the potatoes; like we can leave them in the ground to rot, which will also help
Yeah.
the swales faster than daikon.
So I've got that, and then I've got a couple of peppers in pots that are doing pretty well. And there's one tomato that I planted from seed like 3 weeks ago. And the last time I saw it, it was like 2 inches tall.
Yeah. Well, if you
It's
need tomatoes, I've got all sorts of cuttings started in the like that need to go somewhere
yeah, and
because
that
my other
was
wall's not done yet, and that's where they're supposed to go.
the only reason I put that tomato in there was I forget what it was. It was like a lemon drop tomato that I had some seed for, and I had an empty pot sitting there. So I was like, I'm gonna shove one of these seeds in here and see what happens.
He's not a very strategic gardener, guys.
That was not strategic at all.
Yeah. Okay, he's really good with reshaping the land. Tell him what you're doing at the pond.
That has turned into a major
But
project.
what's the big picture? Don't tell me all the details. Start at the big picture.
The big picture is there's two main issues. One is heavy erosion on one side of the pond. The other is heavy erosion causing the pond to leak on the other side of the pond. So I started picking at the one spot uphill that's got all the heavy erosion because it was a nice spot to
So
go
what you're
sit.
trying to do is plug holes and stop the erosion. Is that the goal?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And he's been doing that, and he's chosen to work on it on the hottest days of the year. I'm sure it has nothing to do that he gets to stand in muddy, cold water while he's doing it.
Well, that's how it actually started, was because I walked down there during the hottest part of the day to sit down and cool off. And while I was sitting there, it was like, let me flip this rock over here. And well, there's another good rock that would go right here next to that one. And I kind of started picking at it. And then in the
And now
process,
all he can think about is that pond, and that's all he wants to work on.
yeah, well, I wound up going over to just look at the big problem, which is the leak. And there was two pieces of PVC sticking through an old retaining wall. I was like, I'm gonna dig on the one side to see if that pipe is accessible and I could get that working as a drain. And part of the retaining wall wound up just coming out. So I was like,
Mhm.
well, I guess now I actually have to fix this.
Yeah.
And it's been one of those projects that's been in the back of my brain for like 2 years. Like, do I want to do it like this, or should I try doing this? Or, we could do that, pour a little concrete and have kind of a step down system.
Our
And
bigger problem is there are trees growing on the dam side, and they're causing holes.
yeah. And so when I started digging into part of that the other day, um, I was expecting to find tree roots from a tree. I found tree roots from at least 3 trees, to include an entire cedar stump
Okay.
that was half rotten and half gone. I was like, well, that explains a lot.
Yep. Cool. So at some point, maybe the pond will be a pond again. Next segment is Holler Neighbors and Community. This is where we talk about what's going on. Sean had a GSD weekend that I was supposed to go to last weekend, but with my changed schedule, I needed to stay home. So I did. And he didn't yell at me. So that's good. But it sounded like it was a great weekend. It was really hot, and they got a lot of stuff started for him. He's building a building. So the foundation is up on that. I can't remember what the building's for. Do you remember?
Shower
Oh, yeah, it's an outdoor shower.
something.
Yeah, something like that. So that went well, and it's always awesome to see those. I think his next one's gonna be in September when it's a little bit cooler, and if that happens, I'll probably do a green chili day there. So anybody who doesn't know, green chili day is when I order hatch green chilies from New Mexico, and we roast them and cook a bunch of stuff. So I told him, I was like, "Well, we should just do green chili day at your house because we haven't had one in, like, a year or 2 years," right?
I don't remember.
Okay. It's like you disappear. You're on delay. Are you having trouble hearing me?
No, I'm distracted by other. There was dogs and then there's chickens. Oh, by the way, the chickens are all over the place now. We got to deal with them.
Yeah, well, we'll deal with them when I get back, or you can clip their wings by yourself.
No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and the fence has to be repaired enough to keep them in.
Pretty sure that part happened.
You already did that?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's no
Well,
longer
not
that netting across the middle?
no. There's a whole thing down there. They should
Yeah,
not be
so
able to
they
get
can get
through.
out through the gates right now. They hop through that little gap.
Mm. I
I
haven't
watched them
actually
do it.
seen them. I haven't actually seen them getting out. So
Okay. I have, because I've been thinking the same thing. So we'll clip a wing on them when I get back, but we got to close them in the coop in the morning. It's like we got to make that door not open at morning light because it opens before you get up so that we can
painters,
catch them in their coop.
painters tape over the
Sure.
sensor.
Whatever it's gonna take, but then we'll clip one wing, but also at the top of the whole fence, we need to put sparkly stuff. And then the other
Yeah.
way they're getting out is over that wood one because they can hop up there and roost.
Yeah.
And so if they get as tall as the pig barn, then they can just get out. And then look around the bottom for where they can go out the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll be on the grape arbor side that they do that.
On
Just
the
in case
what?
you didn't know I was thinking about that. Where the grape arbor used to be that you pulled out, that side, that's where they're if they're digging out, that's where they're digging out. The
Okay.
downhill side.
Okay.
What's confusing?
The grape arbor thing.
There used to be a grape arbor there. I wish there still was, but it was falling apart, so you pulled it out, and the grapes are all gone now.
Yeah, I'm just remembering the old posts that were a pain in the ass to get
So
out.
anyway, that was the grape arbor. Um, there's a lot more automotive mix and match going, but I hear that Nighthawk has his car back.
Yes, in theory.
The really important question is this: does he have the right parts to fix the wood chipper?
I think so. He did mention working on that today.
Yeah, he said the carburetor might not be the right one. I bet if you poked your nose up there to help him, that he would love that.
Probably.
Yeah. And then some friends came out to get some American breast chicken eggs. I know the person who wants me to mail them is disappointed I haven't yet. I don't see myself managing to do that until my commuting to California stops. So it is on my mind to do, but I need to know how to package eggs for shipping, for example, and I have no idea. So that starts there. Then I got to collect the eggs. But I think with the ducks on pause, it's important to be more purposeful about collecting chicken eggs. Usually we just kind of let them stack up and then feed them to animals or whatever. So, yeah. Next up is infrastructure. This is where we talk about things we're building on the homestead. And the first thing is that we have tree Mageddon to deal with. I've got campers coming in I think 3 days, and we have tree debris everywhere. So that's not awesome. But in order to get through that, we need to chip up all those branches. And we were going to rent a wood chipper last weekend, and then Tactical just felt like he was too tired and he kind of called it off, which was a good call because working yourself till you're sick is a bad idea. So we didn't do that. And I think when Nighthawk gets his wood chipper up, we're going to see what can be chipped with that versus renting one that can do 6-inch logs. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking if we can get his up and running, get through everything we can with his, then we would be down to just the big stuff, and then we
I
can
would do it differently. I would rent it and see how much you can chip up with that because it's going to work better than a small grade one. And then transition into the small one with what you don't get done in a day.
Yeah, well, there's a
Because I have a
lot.
feeling what you're going to do is you're going to poke around with his, which is made for 1.5-inch sticks. And you're going to get really frustrated because you can't put most of the stuff through it. Wherein if you do the commercial one, you get all the stuff done. And then other things that pop up later, we can put through the smaller one over time, like the fodder trees and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think it's going to be like the difference between my commercial roaster and a cast iron skillet.
okay.
Yeah. You don't
There's
agree?
the whole I have to have time to spend a full day doing nothing but chipping wood and have the energy and the weather.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take a whole day. I think you're going to be a few hours in and be surprised how much you just chipped.
Well, I mean,
Just from past chipping experiences.
I'm hoping that, I would rent a wood chipper and I'm done in 6 hours.
You might be done
But
in 2.
there's always the possibility, because it's here, that it's going to be a 3-day project. Like,
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I
uh,
would rent it for one day, get what you can get done in a day, and then bring it back. And just if you're not done, you're not done. But I would also do it on a day where Nighthawk can help you,
yeah.
or I can help you, like last weekend.
So,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just last weekend it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Skeins girl says I haven't been able to collect eggs for 2 days. I think I have a broody hen. She's a tiny whirl of fury if you try to get the eggs. If I don't want a chicken to set in that situation, I glove up and cover my arms and I get them anyway.
Really big sticks are really
And I don't
scary.
hurt the chicken. I just like if you just go in there with gloves so when they bite you, it doesn't hurt. Um,
No, I'm not saying hurt the chicken. I'm saying when a giant stick moves in their direction, they get scared and run away.
well, not all of them do. Some of them are very protective of their eggs, which is why I glove up.
Yeah, so was the Muscovy the other day. The
Anyway,
stick finally won.
I'm telling Skeins girl how to do this without getting bitten. You're telling Skeins girl how to do it and maybe get bitten.
I didn't get bit. I was like 6 feet away from her.
Yeah. Anyway, So that's just if thought there. If you want the eggs, if you want her to set the eggs, then leave her alone. My issue there is I like to get them off the nest and mark what's there, because in my house, what happens is the other birds start like drive-by shooting eggs under the nest. Oh, here's another one. And then you don't get any eggs for 3 weeks because you don't know which ones are which. And then you throw away a lot of eggs. So that's just it. Tactical, how many wood boring bees can you fit in a plumbing pipe?
6 or 7, I can't remember.
Yeah, so I took a shower in my outdoor shower and the water pressure was bad. And so he had screwed the shower head on tight enough I couldn't get to it. And for some reason, my toolkit, like the plier things that were in there for that, are not there. So I was like, can you just take the shower head off for me and then I'll deal with it? And instead of doing that, he dealt with it himself, which you didn't have to do, but you did. And there was a wood boring bee in the shower head that he got out. And then apparently he turned the water in and like 6 more shot out that pipe. So the lesson here is don't put your shower head on after a winter until you've turned the water on once to make sure there's nothing in the pipe.
Yep.
Yep. It was a real easy fix. That's a good thing. I also said we should put a cotton ball in there, and then nobody likes my cotton ball idea.
I like the idea of just turning the water back on and flushing the pipe out.
Yeah, I mean, we should do that anyway, but I know from past years, other things like mud daubers have gotten in there in the winter, and that's much harder to flush out, which is why I think we should put a cotton ball in there when we take it apart for the winter or in the fall, you know?
Yeah.
Then nothing gets up in there. Nighthawk wants me to put a cap on it. He's like, you could put a cap on it. I'm like, but I have a cotton ball. But why is it that nobody likes the cotton ball idea? Is it because it looks bad?
I don't know.
Margot's like, PPC and end cap, maybe. Yeah, if I have one, sure. But if I don't, man, anything to keep spiders and wasps and whatnot out of there is helpful.
Probably actually do have a PVC cap that would thread on
Yeah,
that.
that's fine. You just don't screw it on all the way so that if some liquid needs to drip out without cracking anything, it can do that. It's not like it's there to stop a leak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have finances. Operation Eyesore is actually paying off pretty well. While I was in town, I was listing up to 2 things a day at a time on Facebook Marketplace for cheap to get rid of it. And I sold a number of things, didn't I?
Yeah.
It was really hot and I sold 2 window units really quickly for cheap. And I met like amazing people doing it. It was really interesting. Like that one
Yeah.
guy who came who's sort of poking at homesteading out in Cookville area with his son.
Yeah.
That was
Lots
fun.
of
Poor son stood on
substance.
a fire ant nest though while he was at my property.
We learned all about comfrey.
Yeah, I sent him home with a comfrey plant too. He got a bonus with that purchase. And for us, it's been nice because the less stuff on my property, the better off we'll be long term. So I haven't come through like a whirling dervish to purge yet, just because when I'm home, I'm trying to focus on getting us ahead for the winter. Like I was supposed to do my first canning project last year or last week, and it did not happen. And at this point, it's not going to happen with those things. So I have some pre-cooked beets for you in the fridge outside where you can just add them to your salad. And there's cucumbers for a cucumber salad. So a cucumber beet salad, but the homemade salad dressing in my fridge would be really good tonight. I would add 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise to that.
Okay.
Unless you already ate the cucumbers. Did you eat them yesterday?
No.
Right. There you go. I'm really good at telling you what to cook when I'm out of town, huh?
Yeah, well, you say all that like I'm gonna remember it in 5 minutes.
I mean, it's not like you don't know how to reach me instantly on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you should totally use up the last of those cucumbers, and then, as I said, you're going to the farmer's market tomorrow, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. On the earlier side might be better because of the Fiddler's Jamboree.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So that's kind of nice because I've been able to use the money from that then to deal with other maintenance issues on the property. And the only thing that's really vexing me right now is that Tactical has 4 rims for sale from his, what was it, a Chevy
It
or
was off
something?
the Chevy.
Yeah. And people ask a lot of very detailed questions, boiling down to one person asked me to go out and measure the distance between 2 screw holes. And I was like, "Well, I can't do that because 'cause I'm not there." And he's like, "Well, let me know when you get back." I'm like, "I don't know when I'm gonna be back, but this is the number from the side of it, and these are all the pictures, and you could totally come out and look at it if you want." So,
Yeah, it's like it's a set of rims off of a work truck. This
well,
isn't,
so this is my thing. People don't wanna drive all the way out there without knowing if they're really gonna work.
well, I mean, that's one thing, but it's like,
So my theory is he's trying to use them for a different truck than that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was just like, I don't know. But I'm also not going to be responsible for measuring holes between bolt holes because depending on how precise you need that measurement, I don't have calipers for that. And I don't want to give you the wrong measurement and then you come all the way out and you're pissed off. Like, I'd rather you just look at the thing. That being said, I may see if he lives somewhere where you drive and you could just bring him one to look at if they're not sold. The other thing about these rims is I had a ton of interest in them. And then, like, it's waned a little bit because it's been a while since the post went up, and I didn't have good pictures, and now I have good pictures. So next time I renew that listing, I'm pretty sure they're gonna sell because everything else is sold within a day or two when I post it. So why is this homesteading? Because what happens on a homestead is you stack up junk and you end up in a situation where you have 5 trucks in the hauler and 1 truck that works. And it's important to be purposeful about getting that clutter out of your life because while it's really nice to have a a stockpile of things from which you can pull to repair other things, there's a point where it goes from that to unmanageable junk. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. Any other questions from the audience or anything else you want to talk about this week, T?
No.
All right. Well, guys, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. One, get your coffee at Hollow Roast. 2, consider becoming a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, go out, make it a great week.